Everyone who ever trained him agreed on one thing. This kid had no talent at all. 6 royal training schools, 6 instructors, 6 polite, pitying rejections. The only thing this boy could ever manage was blocking an attack. Nothing flashy, nothing impressive, just barely surviving a hit. 15 years later, that same talentless boy stands alone in front of a legendary Dragon of Calamity and doesn't even flinch. This is the story of Noor, the orphan mocked for his useless skill, who trained so long and so hard that even gods have a reason to fear him. Act 1, a boy with nothing but detonation long before any of that. Noor was just a boy caring for his dying mother, preparing her medicine and herding goats to get by. One evening, despite his best efforts, she quietly passes away, leaving him completely alone in the world. Nothing left to hold on to, Noor stumbles across an old storybook his father used to read to him, a tale of a brave adventurer who defeated dragons, learned powerful magic, and lifted ancient curses alongside loyal companions. Inspired by that story and his mother's final wish for him to live the life he truly wants, Noor makes his decision. He's going to become an adventurer. He leaves his village behind and travels to the royal capital, awestruck by its size and energy. But when he reaches the Adventurers Guild, the clerk turns him away. Before anyone can register, they need real, proven skills from the royal training schools. So Noor enrolls ready to prove himself. Act 2, 6 schools, 6 failures. What follows is 15 years of humiliation that would have broken anyone else. At the School of Heroes, Noor can't unlock any real magical ability, managing only the barest hint of a defensive skill, parrying. His instructor loses patience and sends him away. Next comes warrior training under an instructor named Dan, whose job is teaching students to become human shields, taking damage so their allies never have to. Noor looks like a strong breeze could knock him over. Dan gives him credit for effort anyway. When falling debris nearly crushes the other trainees during an accident, Noor is the only one brave enough to charge in and take the hit head on. Impressed, Dan believes that with just one real skill, Noor could become a literal unbreakable shield. But after months of training, his physical growth is simply too slow to survive what comes next, and Dan reluctantly cuts him loose. He tries archery next, under a sharp-tongued instructor named Mean, who expects him to fail instantly just to get rid of him. Instead, Noor nails a target with a thrown rock on his very first attempt, and does it again perfectly the second time. Given a bow, Noor keeps accidentally crushing it with his bare hands, snapping bow after bow, including Mean's own personal weapon, until she gives up and has him throw stones instead. Within 2 months, he's hunting notoriously fast, agile birds that even veteran hunters struggle to hit. Mean eventually sends him away too, insisting he lacks the finesse for delicate weaponry, quietly knowing full well that Noor is terrifyingly strong even without one. Thief training goes similarly. His instructor, Carol, is stunned by Noor's raw instincts, until a training exercise built around carefully avoiding hidden traps turns into Noor simply charging straight through every single one of them, parrying and rock throwing his way to the prize while completely missing the point of the lesson. Carol lets him go, but secretly offers him a standing invitation to the Capital Intelligence Agency if he ever gives up on being an adventurer. Magic training reveals the real problem. There's almost no mana flowing through Noor's body at all. His instructor is floored when Noor insists on entering a mana resonance chamber that amplifies human senses to dangerous extremes, a room most people can't survive for long, and simply refuses to leave, emerging fine after months of exposure with nothing to show for it but a single tiny flame. The old wizard is stunned anyway. Simply managing that much is nearly unheard of for someone this incapable of magic. Cleric training is his final attempt under an instructor named Sam. After months of work, all Noor can manage is a minor spell called Low Heal. Not even enough to be recognized as a real adventuring skill, and yet Sam is quietly amazed. By every rule of this world, using healing magic without ever receiving a divine blessing at birth simply shouldn't be possible at all. After cycling through every single school, the guild clerk has no choice but to reject him outright. Not a single practical skill to his name. Defeated but not broken, Noor goes home, forges his own sword, and remembers something an old instructor once told him. Master one single skill deeply enough, and it can evolve into something greater. Since parrying is the only thing he's ever managed, Noor commits to it completely. A year of relentless training later, he can deflect 10 strikes in a single breath. 3 more years, and it's 100. 10 full years in, he can parry 1,000 blows without breaking a sweat, still without a single flashy new power to show for it. Determined anyway, Noor returns to the guild one final time. The staff can only offer him the very bottom rung that exists. F rank, a status so restrictive it's barely considered adventuring at all. Noor accepts without hesitation. To him, it's everything. Act 3, the Minotaur in the cave. Noor spends his days on small, humble jobs around the capital, carrying loads, chasing runaway cats, cooking with his tiny flame spell, making children smile with a small levitation trick. It's not the heroic life from his father's stories, but it's enough then everything changes. Rushing toward a scream, Noor finds a Minotaur, summoned by dark magic, slaughtering royal guards inside a cave, with Princess Lynne trapped and next in line. Armed only with a battered sword and pure parrying instinct, Noor draws the beast's attacks away from her, absorbing blow after blow until with one flawless, perfectly timed parry, he decapitates the monster outright. Shaken but safe, Lynne asks for his name. Noor simply says, "I'm nobody important," and walks away, leaving behind nothing but rumors of a mysterious swordsman that the entire kingdom is now desperate to find. Act 4. The king's unbreakable blade. Using her tracking magic, Lynne eventually finds Noor back at the guild and drags him, reluctantly, to meet her father, the king. Noor's blunt honesty and complete disinterest in wealth or status leaves the king stunned. He offers gold, land, even half the treasury's ancient relics. Noor turns down every single one. Finally, the king gestures to an ancient sword resting behind his throne, the legendary unbreakable Blackblade, recovered from the most dangerous depths of the Dungeon of the Lost. A weapon so hard that nothing has ever managed to scratch it, except for one mysterious mark already carved into it long before anyone found it. He hands it to Noor like it's nothing. Noor accepts it just as casually, already wondering if it'll work well for scraping out an old lady's clogged drain back home. Outside the palace, Lynne's sworn protector, the divine shield Enos, kneels and apologizes for how coldly she treated him earlier, revealing her true role as the Clay family's most elite guardian. Meanwhile, Lynne's brother, Prince Rain, is furious that his father just handed away one of the kingdom's most priceless relics to a total stranger. But the more he thinks about it, the less it feels like carelessness. With unease growing across the kingdom, Rain starts to wonder if his father sees something in Noor that no one else does yet. Not a beggar who got lucky, but a hidden weapon for a war that hasn't started yet. Then Gilbert, a decorated warrior, blocks Noor's path and demands a duel. Certain he's about to see something remarkable, Noor agrees. Act 5. That change everything the soldiers watching expect a massacre. Gilbert is a once-in-a-generation prodigy, undefeated since childhood, who has already beaten every fighter in the capital and grown bored doing it. He'd secretly hoped that a stranger from nowhere might finally be the real challenge he's been searching for his entire life. What he gets instead is a masterclass. He unleashes strike after strike, growing faster and sharper, but Noor calmly parries everything thrown at him, completely unaware that Gilbert is giving him his true full effort the entire time. When Gilbert finally unleashes his ultimate technique, a devastating attack no one has ever survived, the dust clears to reveal nothing. Noor is already standing behind him. "I win," he says simply, and walks away, leaving Gilbert and everyone watching utterly speechless. Gilbert later realizes the ground beneath them cracked from the force of his own attack without Noor even noticing, and instead of resentment, he feels something he hasn't felt in years. Genuine excitement. Not long after, Lynne corners Noor with an unusual request. She wants to become his page and learn from him directly. Certain he has nothing to teach someone as brilliant as her, Noor refuses again and again, until Lynne shows off her most powerful spells to prove her worth. In response, Noor sheepishly demonstrates the only true magic he's ever mastered, an enlarged version of the most basic beginner spell, Tiny Flame. What Noor sees as embarrassing, Lynne recognizes as something extraordinary, a version of that spell more advanced than what even a 200-year veteran mage ever achieved. In that moment, she finally understands. Act 6. Goblin Emperor and the Black Death, dragon wanting to prove how ordinary his life really is. Noor takes Lynne along on a routine goblin hunting job. Along the way, she explains that goblins aren't just mindless monsters. They play a real role in the forest's ecosystem and only start attacking humans when food runs short, which is why adventurers keep their numbers in check, rather than wiping them out entirely. But this time, something's wrong. They can't find a single living goblin anywhere, only a mutilated corpse. What they eventually uncover is a genetically altered abomination known as the Goblin Emperor, a banned creation capable of devouring other goblins to grow stronger with every kill. Noor handles it without breaking stride, casually parrying its attacks as if it were nothing, while Lynne watches in stunned disbelief. Soon after, the pair rescue a young demon-folk boy named Rollo from a Black Death dragon's poisonous mist, a toxin capable of killing instantly. To everyone's shock, Noor shrugs off a direct hit completely, the result of years spent quietly building poison resistance by eating toxic snakes and plants purely out of curiosity. Learning that Rollo had been enslaved and forced to deliver the monster into the city, Noor decides on the spot to protect him, right as a former S-rank adventurer named Zadu, a man so dangerous the Heroes Guild once faked his own death rather than hunt him down, arrives to collect Rollo by force. Their clash is brutal. Zadu unleashes his signature weapon, the Silver Cross, a blade that splits apart mid-air into a swarm of flying daggers infamous for killing hundreds of people in seconds. Even with Enos stepping in to shield them, it takes everything Noor has just to keep Rollo alive. Yet Zadu's weapons, supposedly unbreakable, shatter one after another against Noor's simple parries. Confused and intrigued rather than angry, Zadu eventually calls off the fight, calling Noor the strangest person he's ever met, warning them of something even worse heading toward the royal capital. Act 7. The Dragon of Calamity. That warning turns out to be true. A colossal Dragon of Calamity, a beast asleep for 150 years, deliberately awakened by the enemy magic empire, descends on the capital, tearing through the city as evacuations scramble to keep pace. The king, refusing to flee, prepares to sacrifice his own life in a desperate suicide strike just to slow the beast down. He never gets the chance. Noor arrives in a single desperate sprint, launched at incredible speed by Lynne's own wind magic, parries the dragon's killing blow at the very last second, stunning everyone, including the dragon herself. What follows is less a battle than a one-sided lesson. Every attack the ancient dragon throws, Noor calmly deflects again and again until the massive creature, prideful, furious, and utterly confused, finally does something no one expects. She submits. Finale, Betrael and the Mona Cannon refusing to kill a creature that no longer wants to fight. Noor has Rollo, whose demon folk gift lets him command monsters. Order the dragon to return home peacefully. It agrees and begins to leave in peace, only to be blasted out of the sky without warning by Darus, the ruthless leader of the magic empire, who reveals the dragon was nothing more than a disposable weapon in his invasion plan all along. Darus wants this war remembered by history, not as an invasion, but as a lesson to the world about the foolishness of a kingdom that neglected the treasures buried beneath it. One of his own soldiers, a man named Randus, quietly doubts that any of this will actually benefit their country in the long run, but Darus silences the objection instantly, unwilling to let anyone question his vision. With his war machine now fully exposed, elite soldiers in enchanted armor, cannons, and a colossal siege weapon known as the Mona Cannon, Darus orders the full assault to begin, aiming his strongest weapon directly at Enos, certain it will erase the divine shield for good and prove that the Age of Legends is finally over. The blast fires, and once again Noor simply steps forward and parries it, scattering the massive beam harmlessly into the sky, leaving Darus and his entire army staring in complete disbelief at the nobody standing calmly between them and the people he's sworn, without ever saying so out loud, to protect. That's the story of a boy the world wrote off completely. A boy who never gave up, never bragged, never stopped training even when every single teacher told him he was wasting his time. If you want to see how far Noor's story goes from here, go watch the full series for yourself, and let me know in the comments. Which useless skill would you have turned into a